Sundays. Nothing whatsoever. Not even cooking. So these meals had to be made ahead on Saturday. And with all the things that were most plentiful here, they would mix up the brown sugar, molasses, salt pork, onions, and beans, of course. And that would simmer all night in the fireplace. Be ready by morning, and there's your classic Boston baked beans with that rich molasses flavor. That's what makes them Boston baked beans. So they'd all be up early on Sunday. Everybody had to go to church. Church was 6.5 hours. They'd have beans for breakfast, beans for dinner. They were reshaping the waterfront at that time, as well as creating Back Bay. And there'd be a lot of sailors hanging out down by the waterfront as well. And they'd notice how every day at noon, there was a parade as the wives came out to the job sites with the steaming pots of beans for their husbands for lunch. When they went back home to their ports around the world, all the stories, the sailors would have stories to tell of the city where everyone ate beans. That's how it spread so quickly, seaport to seaport, and soon around the world, this city became known as Bean Town. So that's where it comes from, if you're wondering. Now remember, it is very specific to make the Boston baked beans correctly. It takes 239 beans, not one bean more, just one more bean, and it comes out 240. 240, right. So we have kind of worked our way by Mass General Hospital here. Considered one of America's finest hospitals, the entranceway slightly behind us in the campus. Medical innovations happening here through the years, like first organ transplant of any kind, the kidney, reattachment of a limb, the appendectomy, any breakthroughs in burn treatment, even way back to the 1800s, first use of ether as an anesthetic. Ether was a lot better than the rum or whiskey that they jail on the right. It was abandoned and falling apart for years until the hospital bought it. They're now making it into a modern hotel for their guests and families of their patients, something they really need. I don't know if they've ever made a jail into a hotel before. And I don't know if the memory of what the building used to be still lingers within its very secure stone walls. Might you wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of banging jail bars. Or maybe run into Albert DeSalvo in the corridors. The man who confessed to being the Boston Strangler. Is he still here? We're not sure. Just have to wait and see. We'll be moving on to the Longfellow Bridge, named for the poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. We'll be crossing over the Charles River. The historic bridge is 100 years old. Now we do have a police officer now. Otherwise, that side would all jam right across the intersection. Make sure nobody can go through, because they are Boston drivers. Very hard to uphold that reputation as being the worst drivers in the country. Doing a pretty good job of it, too. So there, beautiful view. You've got the golden yellow color, some of the fall foliage there. Should be peak foliage right now, just around the 18th of October, usually the best foliage. City skyline. A little cloudy today, but otherwise great view, and October is, without a doubt, the best time to visit here. Best time of the year, most beautiful time of the year. Longfellow wrote the poem Paul Revere's Midnight Ride in 1860. It was a time just prior to the Civil War breaking out, and a lot of tension going on in the country. People really needing somebody they could look up to, a hero. Longfellow took the forgotten story of the Midnight Ride and revived it. He wrote his own version of the story that became the legend that we all know and made Paul Revere a folk hero. So moving into Cambridge, mostly you'd be looking at a high-tech industrial area. World headquarters to some major corporations in this area. Biogen, for instance. Puritans established this town, as I said, 1630. They called it Newtown at first. Many of them were educated at Cambridge University overseas. Education was important to them. They created a college of their own over here in a remote location in 1636, only 6 years after they'd arrived. Mainly a college for ministers. It was somewhat based on Cambridge University. And eventually the name of the town became Cambridge. There were only 14 graduations in the first 2 years of the college. They barely had the money to keep it going. Then in 1638, a wealthy young man passed away unexpectedly and left the college a gift. Half of his fortune, just what they needed. So grateful they named the college after him. And the young man's name was Harvard. John Harvard. So that's the story, how it began. Now, of course, we don't go all the way to Harvard on the trolley. It is not a part of this tour. But it is within fairly easy reach, so if you'd like to go to Harvard, use the Red Line subway. It's only 2 miles from where we are now. That still makes for an interesting story to tell how it began. And around the corner, there's another famous college that we will get to visit. It's called MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Section, everything across the way belongs to MIT. On the right-hand side of the trolley, you'll see the famous dome, a symbol to the school. Sort of in the distance over there, there's MIT's dome. Subway station right here you can use if you want to go to Harvard. I'd recommend you do that on your own after your tour because you'll probably want to spend some time down at Harvard Square. So here you go, stop by. Alright. Yep, painted red, that's the one. Remember, folks, you don't need to worry about logos or names on the trolley. Just look for that red paint job. That's yours. We're the only red trolleys. Try to board the orange and green trolley, they'll kick you off. They have as much fun kicking you off as I do kicking their passengers off. So, yep, there's one day last week I kicked off somebody from the Old Town trolley, from the City View trolley, and from the Discover trolley within an hour. Just really made my day. Alright, now with all the geniuses you're going to find here at MIT, you can expect some elaborate practical jokes around campus. Whenever something appears on top of the dome, it's called a hack. And one of the most memorable hacks was the police car back in 1986. All up there in pieces overnight, apparently put back together. Professors got up there, they found a mannequin in the driver's seat in a police officer's uniform, a box of donuts on the passenger seat, and another tradition with the hacks is they always leave instructions for the professors on the best way to get the things back down. So usually the professors have to hire in a heavy-duty crane again, so that's just the way it goes. Another time there was a cow up there. There's a steakhouse up north of Boston. You have all kinds of fiberglass cows and steers out on the front lawn. Students got a U-Haul and went out there one night. Brought back one of those cows, and there it was first thing in the morning up on the dome. And the steakhouse thought it was such good advertising, they just let them keep it for as long as they wanted to. Well, another thing you find at MIT, you might expect some interesting architecture in a college like this one. You won't be disappointed. Through the next opening on your left. See what you make of it. See it here first. Right there. And then we'll move around to the other side of it. What do you think? Love it, hate it? That's the work of that quirky California architect, Frank Gehry. If you're familiar with his work, you know he makes some pretty bold statements, combining the wild sculpture, the angles into his work. He designed Boston's own New England Aquarium. He did the Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles, the Jimi Hendrix Museum in Seattle. And after seeing those buildings, I have to say this is one of his milder designs. To it. It's called the Stata Center. Okay, now we come right up close. Looks like a building that says has just barely survived an earthquake. That's the Institute for Learning and Memory, part of MIT's Brain and Cognitive Sciences program. I find this to be a pretty big college. It's long and narrow down the banks of the Charles River. About 15,000 students. Not easy to get in here. Relying on a great track record in high school, excellent SAT scores. That's one thing you just can't get around. That's what it takes. It's not cheap either. It's $45,000 a year. That's the same as Harvard. The school was founded back in 1861 by William Barton Rogers. And around the corner, we'll take a look at its main entranceway, appropriately named the Rogers Building. Oh, this is so much fun. Somebody broke off the turn signal lever in the trolley. I got this little note down here that I'm using with my thumb. Okay, on your left now, just behind the tree there, it's a Greek Revival style, great, huge stone columns, MIT's grand front doors, the Rogers Building. All the bicycles over there, that's the best way to travel for these students. They travel back and forth to Harvard Square all the time. It's only 2 miles. Harvard Square is such a fun place to hang out. That's where they go. Even have bike paths in the road for them. Influential Chinese architect Iacp was a graduate from here. Came back and designed the auditorium. See the curving design over to the right there? In this design, the roof touches the foundation at only 3 points. All the dorms buildings along to the right here, the brick dorms. On the left, the School of Naval Architecture. You've got a little stone Venetian ship up above the door there. For your journey through Cambridge. And ahead of us, back to the Charles River, this time crossing a different bridge for another wonderful skyline view. Really is a big college town here, Boston. We've got about 70 to 80 different colleges within the greater Boston area. For a city with a normal population about 600,000, it swells to 750,000 each September with all the students who arrive. Also, so many students, it leads to a very young population, the average age of the Bostonian being only 28.
The Citgo sign over there. Right above the light towers of Fenway Park, you can see the home to the Red Sox. Buildings of Boston University, BU, further down to the right. Places that we were before off to your left, Beacon Hill, Capitol Dome. Jogging, just enjoying some quiet time. All the parkland down the riverbanks here, the Esplanade. Now remember what the neighborhood looked like that we left on the other side of Boston. Beacon Hill, the old 1700s neighborhood. This is very different ahead of us. A much newer neighborhood from the later 1800s. It's Back Bay. So the streets are bigger, the buildings are bigger. All new look. The modern brick condo on your left, you might notice, is combined with the walls of a church that burned down years ago. This one mixes up the new and the old in a surprising way. As I described earlier, the whole Back Bay neighborhood is filled in land created throughout the 1800s. Earth that was brought in here to replace the swampy, marshy bay that it really was. The streets were laid out in a neat French-inspired grid pattern, alphabetically named streets. It actually does make sense down this side of Boston. The buildings here were and brownstone Victorians, very fancy, from a time of extravagance. The centerpiece to the neighborhood here, Boston's most beautiful street, Commonwealth Avenue, designed to resemble the grand boulevards of Paris. From elegant to Commonwealth Avenue, we move up to trendy Newbury Street. Now going off to your left, the ritzy shopping street, the Rodeo Drive of the East. Meet lots of bistros, boutiques, sidewalk cafes, upscale little shops and art galleries, all together in their own unique Boston atmosphere. That's Newbury Street. I'd recommend stop 15 if you'd like to get off before Newbury Street. 15 is the closest stop to it. You might be able to see Fenway Park off to the right as I move forward. It's still a few blocks away, but you've got a glimpse of the big green wall with the pair of Red Sox painted onto it. It's right down there. Now on the left, we have our best view of the Prudential Building, second tallest in the city. 52-story skyscraper built in 1965, the first modern skyscraper to be built outside New York City. On top, you've got a skywalk all the way around for a great view, and an elegant restaurant top of the hub. As I
I said before also, as they filled in Back Bay, the earth was brought in by railroad from places off to the west of us. The tracks below us down there, one of the original rail lines used to create Back Bay. In those days, the railroad tracks were built up on a causeway that ran through the marshy land. Berkeley College of Music here. We'll be turning left. And we've got a little tricky situation up ahead with a corner that's difficult to get around in a trolley this long. So looks like our detour is blocked off, so we will have to do that little corner. Normally I detour down that way to avoid it. But as you can see, it's not possible. Over here, we've got another big dome. See that kind of sand-colored building there? Is it real, or is it only painted on? You can decide. And we have the city's oldest firehouse, built in the 1880s and still in service. Police station next door, however, now used for different purposes. Gonna swing this one real wide and watch the Boston drivers kind of block us deliberately from doing our turn. The motto of the Boston driver is always me in front of you. Alright, stop number 10. You can get to the Prudential Skyscraper, the Skywalk, Prudential Center Shopping Mall, the Maparium, Christian Science Church. There's no separate Stop 10C. It's all together here. Stop 10. Actually going to the Museum of Fine Arts. Is there anybody who is going to the museum at this time?
One.
Oh, there always is.
Always one.
There's always one. Looks like we got one for the museum. Trolleys you will see down there will be at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Because it's not a regular part of the tour route. So along to the left side, we've got the whole Prudential Center, a shopping mall with over 100 shops and restaurants. You've got the high rises there, you've got the tower, and all together a huge complex. Now on the right hand side, looking at the world headquarters to the First Church of Christ Scientist. Modern church colonnade building and the tall administration building here are similar, except that one stands up, the other lies down. They were built in 1972. The view here on the right, the original church across the way, you'd be surprised how big that is, and the reflecting pool for an artistic effect. See how the water laps over the edges. The intention here was that people on the opposite side of the pool appear to be walking on the water. The church began as the smaller stone building in front in 1894, completed by 1906 with a huge domed addition on the rear. You can visit the museum in here, the Mary Baker Eddy Library, all about the life of Miss Eddy, the woman who began this religion based on her miraculous faith healings. You can learn about ideas and imagination in the Quest Gallery, some high-tech gadgets you can play with, and walk through the giant 3-story stained glass globe, the Maparium. If anyone chooses not to do the harbor cruise, save that free admission ticket. It's good for that museum as well. The Christian Science Church. So now we move out Huntington Avenue, and we've got the world's second oldest YMCA on the left, second only to the one in London. going to do that Village People YMCA song and dance because I'm driving. Another major college. This is a huge college area just down here ahead of us. Northeastern University will be going through. Network Institute of Technology. There's the... Oh boy, you gotta take a deep breath, everybody. Just squeeze your sides in. Oh, yeah. There we go. All right. Exhale. Take the trolley back to its normal width. It's like on Harry Potter, you know, that lake bus. Remember that thing? So this is all Northeastern University on either side of us. Now, the Museum of Fine Arts is a world-class museum. It's a huge museum. It's a whole city block. Collections of art from all over the world, many cultures, many time periods. An exhibit of Egyptian artifacts, the best you're going to find outside of Egypt. Whole wing dedicated to Asian arts, works of local artists like Paul Revere, John Singleton Copley. You're going to want to spend probably 3 hours in here to really enjoy it, make it worthwhile. So we'll pull up for stop 11, and remember the only other trolleys you have down here, 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock. If you want to stay longer, there's a subway there, and subway station just ahead, the museum stop on the green line. So here's the museum. And there it is. On the front lawn, the statue is entitled Appeal to the Great Spirit. It's a Plains Indian. That is Wentworth Institute of Technology across the way there. Very attractive campus. Great technical school. Also colleges of art, pharmacy, Simmons, Wheelock, and Emmanuel colleges, all within this area. Another museum down here too you might like to come back to on your own. And I'll show you where it is. It's the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. It's a beautiful mansion. It's an Italianate style mansion full of priceless treasures that she collected during her travels around the world. The best part of it is the beautiful garden courtyard in the center of the mansion. Would like to go there, use the museum stop on the subway, and it's right down here with the red tile roof. Just barely see it through the trees. I recommend that museum. It's beautiful. So passing Parkland, Back Bay Fens, designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, famous landscaper. On the other side of the parkland, you do find Fenway Park, the baseball stadium. You can't quite see it from here, but it's not too far away. It first opened in 1912. That makes it the oldest professional stadium in the country. Babe Ruth played there in the early days. Great hitter, great pitcher, big lefty, heart of the Boston team. He brought the Red Sox to victory in the 1918 World Series. But he failed to bring them to the championship in 1919. The team had some second thoughts about Babe Ruth. In 1920, the team hurting for money, they sold him to the New York Yankees. A huge mistake. Because the Babe would never let us forget that betrayal. It seemed that year after year, whenever we came close to a World Series, something would always happen to get in the way. It seemed the Babe was making this happen. We called it the curse of the Bambino. On it went, more than can be explained by coincidence. I don't know what finally changed things. Maybe it was that bumper sticker, Reverse the Curse, that everybody had. But in the fall of 2004, we watched the Red Sox do something we never expected. They won the World Series. First time in 86 years. Now when we come out here, back into Northeastern property again, across the way is the gym. And on the side of the gym is a bronze tablet. Marks this as the spot.
Site of the original baseball field before Fenway was built. This is where Cy Young would have played, way back there. Where in 1903, Boston took on Pittsburgh in one of the games of the first World Series, right over here. There's the electric streetcars, the Green Line portion of the subway. That's the oldest part of the subway, the Green Line, so it still runs actual trolley cars, unlike the trains and the rest of the subway.
Those are those Japanese design Type 7 trolley cars. Those are very successful, well-designed. I remember the days they ran the old PCC trolleys designed in the 1930s. Those were awesome. I love the old PCCs. They still run them too on the Mattapan branch. Those are antiques. And they got the Boeing Vertol trolleys. Those were a nightmare. They were not very successful. So the Type 7s seem to work out very well. Okay, now we've got Symphony Hall coming up on the left. You see the green copper roof, another Greek revival design, and the stone columns. That's home to the Boston Pops and Boston Symphony Orchestras. Brilliant design, built in 1900, said to be nearly acoustically perfect. Now we're going to have a race in the underpass. Keep that from getting on the side of us here. Boston driver, of course, got to be in front of you. Be first. There you go, stop number 12, Midtown Hotel. OLPH, it meant boat helper. When he passed away, he was canonized. That means he became a saint. And a village was named after him, a tiny fishing village. Called it Boatulp's Town. Years and the generations passed, and the name simplified a bit over time. Just dropped some letters. Eventually, Boatulp's Town became Boston. Many of those early original settlers, Puritans, had come from Boston, England, so the new colony became Boston as well. That's where it came from. You can see it's derived from the name St. Boatulf, just like St. Boatulf Street, and it literally means boat helper's town. Back up to the shopping center again, the Prudential Center there. It's one of the entrances on the corner. Nice glass building up there, 111 Huntington Avenue. That's only 4 years old. Colonnade Hotel. Well, we got Dunbar armored car in the way there. Alright. Don't see anyone there anyways. Anyone want to get off at this stop? Okay, we're kind of pulling over beyond the stop, but not much choice about it. There you go, stop number 13. That was Colonnade Hotel. Whenever Frank Sinatra used to perform at Symphony Hall, he'd always stay at the Colonnade. So shopping mall continuing along to your left here comes out now and crosses the street in front of us. And on the other side becomes the more high-end Copley Place. And it keeps going all the way out to Copley Square. In fact, that's about 6 blocks, and you never even have to step outside. Handy thing in the cold winter. escalators up to the malls on either side. That's 14. Copley around here. It's been John Singleton Copley, an artist. Lived in the city in time just prior to the Revolutionary War, painted portraits of men like Paul Revere, Sam Adams, and John Hancock. Those are the best representations we have of what those men looked like. You'll find the originals in the Museum of Fine Arts, and in many cases you'll find reproductions of those portraits in history books. Trolly was a Tory. It means he sympathized with the British side, so he ended up leaving Boston once the Revolutionary War began, and back to England. So Copley Square, where we're headed now, is a place where we'll find some of Boston's greatest buildings. Making this left turn, if you kind of focus on your front left, you'll see a tremendous view coming up. Goes to 15th Copley Square and Newbury Street. Number 15. Have a great day. It's a brownstone, a Venetian Gothic style. It would just look perfect in Venice, especially its tall tower. Okay, you can see it. The greatest of all three of these buildings will be Trinity Episcopal Church on the right-hand side. It was the masterpiece of the Boston architect Henry Hobson Richardson. He created his own unique style of building known as Richardsonian Romanesque, and a perfect example right here in his greatest work. He won a design competition to create this building. It was completed in 1877 after 4 years construction and voted one of the 10 greatest buildings in the United States. So we'll see more of Trinity as we circle around the block here. All three buildings give you a touch of Italian styling, from the Romanesque to the Venetian to the Renaissance Villa. High above the square. Here's John Singleton Copley's statue over there, all dressed up in his English finery with his palette and paintbrushes. And over here beyond the fountain are the tortoise and the hare. See them? From Aesop Stables, the story about the race. Slow and steady, the tortoise won. In this case, we'd be talking about the Boston Marathon. 110 years now, right here. Each April, the original marathon is ended. Finish line just one block behind us. It's the race from the town of Hopkinton to Boston's Copley Square, the marathon. Something really pretty on this side of Trinity Church. It's a little courtyard. There's a Gothic window sort of hidden in there. Little statue of St. Francis, a little secret garden, just real pretty right there. Now coming right up to the Hancock Building, just happens to be the tallest building in Boston. 790 feet tall, 62 stories, and over 10,000 windows. It's like one gigantic mirror reflecting its neighbors. Windows are falling out when it was new. It was completed by 1976. Soon after, the windows began dropping, crashing to the sidewalk. It was all over the news at the time. About 60 windows fell out. Luckily, nobody got hit by one. The building got the nickname Plywood Palace for obvious reasons. Well, there's no need to worry driving this close to it today. They ended up replacing all the windows with a thicker glass that would fit properly and withstand the pressure to keep from blowing out. And what's that to the right? That's us going by. Hey, everybody. look at this building once more from a different point of view. And now we got the Hard Rock Cafe on your left, left over from the horrible rush hours. There's a Cadillac stuck right in the front of it. That's the work of a real Boston driver. That's the Hard Rock. Nearby, you got Skipjack Seafood, Bertucci's Italian, and the improvisational grill, fire and ice. Some suggestions for lunch. Here's stop 16. From the wealthy suburban homes like Newton or Wellesley, a very large home picked up by a tornado with all its landscaping and grounds and transplanted to the top of a building there. At least that's what it looks like to me. And it's quite the penthouse up there. Quite ultimate in luxury living. Missed that. Turn it that way. You see the penthouse up on the roof. More typical neighborhood for the rest of us here, the South End brick neighborhood. Kind of an eclectic neighborhood, the South End. Lots of artists, studios, musicians, lofts, and some quite a variety of little tiny restaurants on the corners. Building with a silver spire built in the 30s. Tallest in the city for many years. Up on top on the spire there, that's a weather beacon. Those red lights that are up in the spire. I'll tell you about those in a minute. Now you've got the new Hancock building, the glass tower. Very narrow profile from this point of view. Almost an optical illusion. As if the whole thing were turning two-dimensional. The weather beacon does show different lights, different colors and patterns to predict the weather. And it's best seen around dusk when the lights glow the brightest because the sky is darker. A little rhyme that goes with it goes something like this. Steady blue, clear view. Flashing blue changes to steady red, rain ahead. Flashing red, snow instead. Except here in Boston, we all know. In the summer, it does not snow. Flashing red in the summer means the Red Sox game has been rained out. And that's the rhyme on the weather beacon. Now we come up to the castle on the right. Here's First Corps Cadet Armory. Traditional to make the armories with a fortress-like appearance in the 1800s. This one particularly impressive. I'll pick lots of quincy granite, little boat drawbridge. First Corps of Cadets went on to become the National Guard. Their castle, now a convention hall, and home to Smith and Walensky's steakhouse restaurant that's just around the corner. The other side of the street, the red awning, is a grand old hotel that first opened in 1927. That was the Statler, largest in the city, where presidents and movie stars used to stay. Featuring a radio in every room back in 27, that was pretty amazing. You could even get 2 stations if you really worked at it. You might have heard the big band sounds of Glenn Miller and his orchestra. Many of those great bands performing here in the ballrooms through that era. And still a hotel now called Park Plaza. Oh, this South End pizza, that's why it's in such a rush. I gotta be in front of you. Yeah. So we got our big election for our governor coming up. We've got Deval Patrick against Kerry Healy. I think this is going to be a really close one. That's my thoughts. Republican Kerry Healy, Democrat Deval Patrick. Typically it's a Democratic state. But it's getting pretty rough now, the campaign in its final days, so which way it's going to go, anybody's guess right now. It's stop number 17, and if you notice, 17 and 6 cross paths right here, so you can't
easily get to stop 6 from stop 17. And there you go. Anybody? Looks like we're all set. So Charles Street, boundary between Back Bay, where we've been, and the older city ahead. So now moving into the original Boston and the historic theater district. Just down here, you've got Blue Man Group, like on the billboard, 3 blue guys. You got the murder mystery Sheer Madness. That show's been gotta be about 30 years old by now. It's been running forever, Sheer Madness, and you always have to figure out who did it, and you never can tell because the show changes from night to night. There's Comedy Stop slightly behind us, where Jay Leno got his beginnings. He went to college right around here at Emerson. Then you got the big theaters here, Lang Center, former Metropolitan, that's our largest. Wilbur the Schubert, not too glitzy on the outside, but inside very impressive. Beautifully restored, old-fashioned city theaters. Spelling Bee looks like it's going to be interesting. Tony Award winner. It's a musical based on something I think everyone has seen before. A Spelling Bee. Then we come up to Washington Street. Crossing here brings us into Chinatown, a miniature Asian city, mostly to the left side. A better way to enter Chinatown, but with Chinese McDonald's. Now we got Kim's Fashions over here. Got all kinds of Oriental fashion for the windows. We got Dunkin' Donuts, and those are everywhere, but there's only one with a Chinese sign. Just smell the foods on the after here as you drive on through. All kinds of Oriental foods. Carefully on the corners, you got little telephone booths. They all have tiny pagodas on top of them. Only thing I've noticed, they've removed some of the telephones lately. I guess too many people were dialing wrong numbers. That was really bad. Just like the Japanese sushi bar they were going to have down here for lawyers. So we're going to call it sashimi. For your Halloween needs, you got Boston Costume here. Spend $50, a free ticket to Spooky World. There you go, lots of fun stuff there, Boston Costume. You guys want to go to Spooky World? It's out at Bayside Expo Center. It's out on the Red Line somewhere. It's beautiful Art Deco style entrance to 75 Neal Street. There's a French-inspired style popular in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, getting a little more geometric, a little less classical with the Art Deco. This building, a perfect example of the style. Beautiful piles of dirt with big plastic bags over them. I see some rusty old trailers and generators and some banged up old Jersey barriers. Definitely postcard worthy right there. Kind of an unfinished portion of the Central Artery Project, better known as the Big Dig. Of course, here's where the highway's coming from the south just before going underground. And that's the whole story. It's Boston's infamous tunnels. The idea came up in the 70s, replacing the aging overhead trestles that used to carry the highway since the 50s. No longer able to handle the capacity, the number of cars that were traveling on them, leading to traffic nightmares, unbelievable. So to go underground, it could go much bigger, much wider highway, capable of carrying up to 250,000 cars per day. And it would be completely out of sight and out of the way. Construction in 1991, 5 workers generally on the project at any given time. They moved enough from below the city to virtually create a new island out in Boston Harbor. And that would be Spectacle Island, which you can visit today. It's a park. So all the dirt from the dig out there, Spectacle Island. Building the tunnel walls, a massive production, was all concrete. Massive walls and roofs, 5 feet thick, solid, reinforced concrete. They built they built 7.8 miles of underground highway altogether. Much of it 4 lanes wide, 3 to 4 lanes wide. The ultimate depth would be 120 feet below the ground, and the reason it goes so deep is to avoid conflicting with the subway. It goes under the subway system. The whole thing took enough concrete to build another Hoover Dam. Dragging along painfully slow through the years, bit by bit, delays, cost overruns, setbacks, kickbacks, turned into the most expensive highway project in history. In the end, the big dig cost more than the tunnel goes under the English Channel. It cost more than the Panama Canal. It cost $14.6 billion. Unbelievable. And maybe someday they'll get done having problems with it and have a real handy underground highway system. So, not holding my breath, however. So you might call it an engineering miracle, which in many ways it really was. And you might also call it a nightmare, which in many ways it also is. However you want to look at it, that's Boston's Big Dig. Very busy railroad station. The old station, the head building on the corner, built in 1899. It's another brownstone. And they say that 1900, more people passed through the front doors of this station than did the doors of Grand Central in New York, making this the busiest station in the country. That was around 1900. Skyscraper, the Federal Reserve, 33 stories, and sometimes known as the Washboard Building. On the other side, to the left, you've got a brown building there that's wider on top than it is on the bottom. Fiduciary Trust Building, better known as the Upside Down Building. There's another tight squeeze there. Keep your body parts in. The top of the underground highway now, all the construction will be new landscaping, a beautification project in the same location where the rusty old trestles used to carry the highway overhead. Now we know you all came thousands of miles to Boston just to see the Boston Tea Party ship and go on board and throw a pail of tea over the side. Well, I got some good news and some bad news. The bad news is there is no Boston Tea Party ship anymore. Now, the good news is that you still have imaginations, so I will work with that. You can just imagine a wooden hull with a bowsprit on the front. You got a couple of masts, and you got some sails wrapped around the spars there, and down in the cargo holds you got a whole bunch of tea. There you go. Just imagine one ship because there were 3. Eleanor, Dartmouth, and Beaver, tied up in a place called Griffin's Wharf, late November of 1773. People of Boston were not too happy about their expensive cargo of tea, the taxes that were due, nor were they expensive about England's ultimatum that it be paid for within 20 days or else. Why was England getting so tough all of a sudden? As if they were forcing the colony to give up.
crossing the Intercontinental.
Okay. Alright, so England was getting pretty tough there all of a sudden. People here wouldn't give up that easily. The night of the deadline would be the 16th of December at midnight. If the tea was not paid for by then, customs would arrive to seize the cargo, and Boston would be in a lot of trouble. But the evening before that deadline, there was a huge town meeting at the Old South Meeting House, a secret meeting, where 3,000 to 5,000 people showed up, almost the whole city. Sam Adams was there, the great speaker in charge, and upon his cue, a band of patriots disguised as Mohawk Indians appeared at the front door. We know Paul Revere was one of them, but we're not sure of the rest. They all swore to secrecy, to never reveal who actually was involved. But they led the townspeople down the darkening cobblestone streets out to those three ships there. They marched on aboard, and everyone from town watched from the shores. The patriots began to smash the chests of tea with their axes. Pretending to be Indians, they dumped them over the sides. It went on for about 3 hours. It actually was done quietly and carefully to avoid attracting attention from British patrols. And it's a wonder that nobody saw this happening. It was such a big thing, but apparently nobody did. By the time it was done, 342 chests of expensive tea had gone into the harbor. The whole cargo was gone. The people of Boston went home and went to bed. Midnight, much to their dismay, England found there was not a trace of tea out there at Griffin's Wharf, and that was their leverage in this dispute. Without that tea, their hands were tied, and nothing more they could do. This was totally unexpected. Boston had pulled off the boldest act of rebellion yet. Boy, the king was outraged. The nastiness just building and brewing from that point on, leading us on the path to war. We stepped along the way. Here we are. Now, if anyone's doing the harbor cruise, it'll be here. The next cruise will be 2:30. This is Bill. He's going to check your tickets. Just show Bill your tickets. I am done for now, so I have to say bye to you. If you're continuing with Trolly, move up to the one in the front of the line that will be leaving shortly. 45 minutes. So enjoy the rest of your time in Boston, folks. Have a great day.
Well, we're going to ride one of these boats. We're not sure which one. I bet it'll almost be that